Yeah. D12 on the beat.
One love, yo.
I don't know. Now one thing I do, Papa, why you keep blessing me like this? You favor me like this. You still keep on protecting me like this. Yeah. You sustaining me like this. I'm so grateful, grateful, God. Say, I don't know. Now one thing I do, Papa, why you keep blessing me like this? And you keep favor me like this. You protecting me like this. And you sustaining me like this. I'm so grateful. Yeah. Hey. You give me plenty money. Too much data. Fun cherry. You put food on my table, clothes on my body, and you share to me. You share for me, so I say, count your blessing, think them one by one, and you will know what thing that I can do. I'm so thankful, yeah. See, yeah. I'm so grateful, yeah. I used to be cocky on the carry. I didn't have no lyrics. They used to call me for nothing. And sister boy, but thank God you never left me now. No. You always spending for me. So I raise my voice and say, I don't know. Now one thing I do, Papa, why you keep blessing me like this? You favor me like this. You keep on protecting me like this. You sustaining me like this. I'm so grateful, God. Jehovah Jireh, yeah, my provider. Jehovah Rapha, yeah, my healer. Jehovah Shalom, yeah, oh my peace of mind. You are my strength, like no other. You are my song in the storm. I just wanna praise you and praise you. Lift my voice to you, my God. Give you praise, yeah. Woo. Say, I don't know. Now one thing I do, Papa, why you keep on blessing me like this? You keep on favoring me like this. You protecting me like this. You sustaining me like this. I'm so grateful, God. Grateful, God. You give me plenty money. Too much data. Fun cherry. You put food on my table, clothes on my body, and you share to me. So I say, elevation by you, promotion by you, celebration by you, blessing by you, favor by you. When it's plenty. I'm grateful, God. Oh, I don't know. Now one thing I do, Papa, why you keep on blessing me like this? Oh, you favor me like this. Oh, you're loving me like this. Blessing me. Oh, my God. Grateful, Lord. Grateful. Oh, grateful.
All right, welcome to Game TV. Welcome to yet another edition of Game TV. And for your information, Game TV is the media platform of the Grassroots Alternative Movement. The Grassroots Alternative Movement is a pro-democracy and political advocacy organization. Welcome to yet another edition. In this edition, we are having a panel discussion on the 5% petroleum equity. There is a 5% equity set aside for Liberian citizens in the petroleum law of Liberia, and we're going to talk more about that. We'll give you the specifics when the law will pass. But there was an amendment made to this law that has taken away this 5% from the Liberian people and given it to some group, some people, and you will get to know as we go into the discussion. And if you are a Liberian, you want to be here because something is being taken away from you, and the process through which it's been done is highly questionable. This is why we are having this panel discussion. We have uh, gentlemen here who have been paying attention to this particular amendment that has been made. Somebody may say overnight. So I will bring them in one by one so that we can get into this discussion. At this time, let me welcome Mr. Josiah Joker Jr. He is a member of the Grassroots Alternative Movement. He's the chairman of the Diaspora Dimension, by the way. Joe, another Saturday. Welcome.
Thank you. It's always good to be here, and especially so having two distinguished brothers who are in this fight. We are very pleased to have them on the platform on the show today.
All right. Well, I will allow Joker to welcome Ambula. Joe, please welcome our guest who has joined the panel discussion.
Right. I'm pleased to inform the public that we are having Ambulai Mame. Sorry for the wrong pronunciation of your last name. He's part of the coalition, his organization. We are also pleased to have Matthew Nyemplu. Matthew Nyemplu is part of the coalition that seeks the reversal of the repeal of or the amendment of Section 36 of the Petroleum Law, the 2014 Petroleum Law passed in 2016. They are all part of the coalition seeking to ensure the restoration of the 5% equity rights set aside exclusively for Liberians. So Matthew and Ambulai, it's a great honor to have the both of you here today to be able to to the Liberian people what they need to know, taking from them by action of the legislature and the executive. So you are most welcome.
Thank you, Josiah. We are.
Thank you,
I'm
Josiah.
pleased to be
You are
here.
muted.
Okay.
Mr. Nyaplo, can you say
Thank
something?
you.
Welcome
Thank
to the
you,
broadcast.
Josiah. Of course. Thank you, Josiah. Thank you to your very form, and also thank you for joining our coalition to restore to Liberians what has been clandestinely, if I would say that way, surreptitiously taken away from them. We hope that we can together restore our rights.
All right, thank you. That was Mr. Yamplu. Mr. Yamplu and Ambulai are part of a coalition that the Grassroots Alternative Movement has also joined. The coalition goal is to advocate for the restoration of the 5% petroleum equity that has been taken away from the Liberian people by the current administration. That is the WEA administration. I see somebody joining us here. Amulai, I see Avin Samson. Talk to us. Where is he joining us from?
Oh, Avin Sompon
Some point.
is the head of the Southeastern Region Students Association, who is also part of the coalition.
Thank you. I'm Alvin Sompon from Liberia. I represent the Western Union, the Western Students Union from Sino County.
All right. Thank you, Avin, for joining us. We appreciate you joining us from all the way the homeland. We know how difficult it is. But folks, let's get started here quickly with this very important
Hello.
discussion. This is a panel discussion on, again, the 5% petroleum equity that was set aside by the Petroleum Act of 2014 that became law in 2016. That act had set aside 5% equity for all Liberians. But there has been an amendment made to that particular law by the current WIA administration, and they have taken the 5% from the Liberian people, and that is why we are here. And before we start the discussion, let me provide some specifics here so that we can lay the groundwork for the discussion, folks. I'm going to read this. So the law, as was passed, as you can see here, okay, it says citizen participation in revenues from petroleum agreement. So this law was crafted in 2014 and passed into law in 2016. In this provision of this law, you see that there is a 5% set aside for citizens to benefit. Now, there is an amendment that has been made by the current administration, which is the WIA administration, that has taken that 5% away from citizens and has given it to businesses instead. And so let me show that also so that we can start the discussion. So as you can see here, this is the WIA amendment of that law of 2014, but passed into law in 2016. You see that the 5% here has been taken away from citizens, but instead it has been given to businesses. So, but those who have been following this, they are here, and we're going to go into the discussion. Let me bring in Amulai. Amulai, so tell us, what is the difference between the 2016 petroleum law and the amendment being made, the provision that talks about the 5% for Liberian citizens?
So thank you so much for the platform. One thing first, I will want for all of us to be on the same page before we can move forward to the specifics of the law, is that Liberia is not producing oil. We needed to be clear about that so that people understand what we're talking today is just more futuristic. But everything that will happen in the future will be determined by what happened today. So we wanted to be clear so that we all are on the same page. Liberia is not producing oil. We are in the process of exploring for oil. And in that process of exploring for the oil, the laws that will govern the process when oil is discovered, how revenue will be distributed, those laws are made now. And this is the law that we're about to talk about. So in 2016, in preparation for Liberia to produce oil and share oil resources, in 2014, we did a nationwide consultation, adopted a petroleum law. Amongst many things Liberians disagree on, they agree on one thing. And that thing Liberians agree on, from the hamlets of the country to urban cities, was that 5% in every petroleum agreement, 5% of the profit of every petroleum contract should be set aside in a separate fund outside of government revenue, specifically for Liberians, most especially underprivileged, disadvantaged, and the elderly. That was how that chapter 36 of the petroleum law was passed, based on the resolution of the people that 5% should be set aside for the benefits of all Liberians in every petroleum agreement. The law was passed, the 5% equity was set aside, the process by which the equity will be acquired, the institution that will manage the equity, how individual Liberians, the only requirement to benefit will be to be a Liberian citizen, was also included in the 2014 law that was passed in 2016. 2017, there were no petroleum activities in the country. 2018, we went to election. 2019, when the government was about to reactivate the basin, the first thing they did, disappointingly, was to go back to the law and amend that provision that set aside 5% for every Liberian and change the content of the law to 5% for Liberians with businesses, thereby making the requirement to benefit from that 5% to have a business. So if you don't have an oil and gas related business, you cannot benefit from that 5%. Even if you have the oil and gas businesses, you must somehow be connected to the political establishment to be able to benefit from the 5%. So that is the history of the 5%, and to give you the information on how the amendment has affected every one of us. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so very much for that explanation. We want to welcome Franklin. And folks, if you're not speaking, please mute yourself. If you are viewing it on Facebook, you can mute it. Because if you are listening to it on Facebook, to hear it from Facebook, there will be a feedback, and that would not be good for the discussion. So I just wanted to do that little rather clarification there. Franklin, welcome. Unmute yourself at your end. I can unmute you. Franklin?
Yes. Anthony.
Franklin, stop listening to Facebook. Yeah. Welcome. Happy to have you.
Thank you. I mean, it's a huge honor being on this platform. Can you hear me now?
Loud and clear.
Okay, good. And I must first restore integrity. I regret my lateness. I was struggling with some internet. Thank God I'm good.
All right. Thank you. Joe, before we can bring Franklin in, you just listened to Amulai. I know the grassroots alternative movement and institution you are a head of in the diaspora has joined. This is part of the coalition, and you issue a press statement in that effect. And let me share that with you and let the people hear what is in that press statement. Yeah, it is. Moravia, 13 April 2021, the grassroots alternative movement has officially joined the coalition of Liberian organizations and intra-groups to demand the 54th legislature to restore the 5% equity right granted to Liberians by the Petroleum law enacted by the 53rd legislature in 2016. Section 31.6 and subsection 36.7 of the 2016 Petroleum law exclusively set aside 5% equity for Liberians for every oil contract signed. Unfortunately, the 54th legislature in 2019 amended this provision of the law to grant the very 5% equity right to Liberian businesses as reflected in section 36A, B, and C of the new Petroleum law of Liberia. So this is your institution making it clear why you think you need to do this.
Thank you, Mr. Sear. And again, thanks to Abulai and Matthew for joining us today. Let me say here that on behalf of the grassroots alternative movement, we are so pleased to be a member of the coalition for several reasons. One, it is morally right to do so because as citizens and as leaders, we have the responsibility to ensure equity in all spheres of our life as a nation. That's the first reason, the first responsibility we have to ensure that. Secondly, we have legal sufficiency to support this endeavor. If you look at Article 7 of the Constitution of Liberia, it talks about maximum feasible participation of the Liberian people in the context of equity, in the context of equality, to be able to seek their welfare, to ensure that the Liberian people receive the just benefits of their own resources. So the grassroots alternative movement being political, social, and advocacy organization seeking to establish a just society in Liberia, we believe that this is incumbent upon us to join our colleagues in the coalition to ensure that we restore the 5% equity right set aside exclusively for Liberians to benefit from every agreement signed under the petroleum law of our country to benefit from. We believe that the action of the legislature in 2019 to amend that particular provision of the petroleum law was done in bad faith, and it was only done to continuously enrich the elite few, and especially so cronies of the current government. And I'm sure Matthew and Ambulai will take us through the way we will dive into those specifics in terms of how they intend to do that. So the grassroots alternative movement believe that this is a just cause. This is something that we must add our voice to. This is something that must not happen to the Liberian people. This is taken away from the Liberian people. They are just benefits, yeah, and they have right to their oil resource. Nobody should tamper with it because the 5% was intended to help citizens in general, not some, not few, to ensure that citizens in the 15 counties their oil resource. So that is why game is all in, and we are going to put our resources, our expertise to work to ensure that we support the coalition in meeting this overarching objective of restoring the 5% equity rights of the Liberian people as set aside by the petroleum law.
Thank you. Mr. Franklin Wisse, you are a member of the grassroots. Your institution is part of this coalition advocating for the 5% equity right to be restored to Liberians that has been taken away from them by the current administration based on an amendment that has happened. And you are an advocate as well. You're always on the side of the people. Why should this restoration of the 5% to the Liberian people be taken serious? Franklin?
Okay, thank you. And I want to thank, yes, can you hear me?
Yeah, go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes, Franklin.
Am I audible now?
Yes, Franklin.
Okay, thank you. So I want to thank yes, I want to thank Josiah, the leader of the grassroots alternative movement, for espousing so lengthily on the reason we are adding our voices to other civil society groups for this just cause. Then I also want to thank Yamplu and Mame, people that I've known over the years, and I'm not any surprised that they will be standing this tall on the side of the people. I always bear in mind a quote from one of our former vice presidents, and my dad always told me about him. That was the vice president to William R. Talbot, Daniel, if I'm getting the name right. He always said the problem with us is us. This advocacy is an advocacy that cuts across the broader spectrum of our society. It affects the life of every Liberian. It is for the good of every Liberian. But then it will interest you to know that as a result of the in the country, the kind of people we have steering the efforts of the state, who are not, and I'm sorry to say, most of whom are intellectual, intellectually, or should I say academically sophisticated. They brand people who want to, like, condemn their wrongs as enemies of the state, and they call you all sort of names. And then foreign people who are benefiting from the crumbs of this situation, who know things that we say are true, as a result of their marriage, their political marriage with these people, brand and turn people in all forms of manner. But let me just say why it is important that we take this advocacy just beyond appearing on Game TV. It is us. When I say us, I mean diaspora Liberians that must, muster that courage to inspire the home-based Liberians to get into action. The reason is simple. Those that are on the ground, most of the advocates that I know that are on the ground are so afraid, owing to the mysterious deaths in the country, the threats from the people in the ruling establishment, and all that. It kind of places them in a little quadrant that they are more concerned about their personal safety, the common good of the people. So if we can really press on, besides the press statements that we issued, if we can begin to start engaging the media, let us put them on record, the media back home, asking to push this, this advocacy. I know it's going to be really challenging. It's going to be difficult. And trust me, they're going to fight this from all angles because, they are powerful. They've got influence. They've got money. But persistency in advocacy is a virtue. And it is not everybody who can exercise that. It is people of, excuse me, high knowledge that can press on. I've gone through all of what we're discussing here, and
Thank you, Franklin.
Overemphasize the need. Yeah, but I can say we made the right decision as an organization to collaborate or join hands with others for this purpose of a common good.
Thank you. Let me come to you, Mr. Yamplo. When the law was crafted in 2014 and passing the law in 2016, the 5% equity we're talking about, I want to know what was the wisdom, in the law for the 5%? What was the intention? What was the 5% for actually for Liberians? Because people need to understand the reason for the 5%, and then they can see why this advocacy to restore is so significant. So tell us, what was the reason for the 5%? What was the goal of that 5% equity for Liberians?
Well, first, let me apologize for the breaking transmission I've been experiencing from my back and adjusting many technical issues. Yeah, I hope I am okay now. I hope my transmission is much better.
You are.
It is. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So with regard to the historicity of the 2014 law and that particular portion, section 36, Ambula at the time worked with Nokar, so he can give us a true historical background. What was the motivation of the Liberian people to have advocated for the inclusion of that clause? Mm-hmm. But I would draw an analogy, between other countries that have sort of sovereign funds, and what was instead the motivation that led to the inclusion of that section 36 within the petroleum law, the new petroleum law of 2014. We have spoken about this very lengthily, but let me just draw a brief analogy, okay? I started development in Madrid, and my capstone was on sovereign wealth funds, global sovereign wealth funds, and their impact on, achieving development. The fact that we are struggling with poverty in Liberia today is because we lack capital, whether human capital or financial capital. In terms of human capital, you got to look at the skill set that currently exists in Liberia and the institutions that we have that are producing the labor force in Liberia? What skill set are they inculcating in the young people who are coming out of high school, going through colleges and entering the economy? What skill set can a vast majority of the Liberian population contribute? So we lack that human capital, and we are not doing something substantial as a country to address that capital deficit. In terms of financial capital, we also do not have the financial capital to be able to address poverty. So from 1847 up to now, if we do not address the two constraints, we're going to see poverty will continue to stay with the Liberian people, and the vast majority of Liberians will continue to be poor, and Liberia will continue to be a poor country and be ranked among least developed countries. So the wisdom of the creation of that section 36 of the new petroleum law was now to at least taking a piecemeal approach to be able to address the capital deficit in our broader development paradigm. Was to the philosophy, the mindset, the motivation of setting aside that 5% was to create financial capital for Liberians to be able to get themselves out of poverty. It is that capital created. So just imagine, so you calculate, hopefully in the future, in about 4, 5, 6 years, 10 years, Liberia will become a petroleum producer. So the motivation is that in every petroleum agreement, Liberians have 5% equity stake. Well, 5% equity stake, I mean, the financial people can speak to that, but just for our audience or understanding, is that the value of investment in each petroleum contract, 5% of that investment, or 5% of that investment, or profits that oil companies will accrue from exploiting our oil resources, 5% of what they earn goes to Liberians. So we are sort of creating the fund, the capital, the financial capital, so that Liberians will be able to devise innovative strategies as to how we address our poverty situation. When you take away that capital that we were trying to create with the provision of that law, you are just condemning Liberia and Liberians to a perpetual fate of poverty. This is how sinful and vicious the clandestine amendment of that law, the taking away of that 5% from Liberians and giving it to a few. So a capital, the financial capital stock that we're trying to build as a country, the government of George Weah has decided that no, the vast majority of Liberians do not need financing. I mean, their fate is to continue to remain poor. So we will give that 5% interest or 5% fund to businesses who are connected to us, so that wealth will continue to be concentrated among those of us who are in power today, even when we shall have left power, that we will continue to benefit from the financial capital that was actually meant for all Liberians to weed themselves out of poverty.
Thank you. And
Mr. C, I don't want to, lose my thought.
Okay, go ahead.
Let me just come back to Matthew. He did very well, bringing in the dimension of the human and financial capital, and then emphasizing the financial capital as a means by which we can contribute to poverty reduction. And lifting the economic standing of the Liberian people is so very significant to the conversation. But I'd like for Matthew or Ambulai to just talk a little bit about the framework in the 2016 law. It is 2014, but it was passed in 2016. The framework set in place by Section 36 to be able to discuss the processes and procedures by which the citizens' funds will be managed, and who will be responsible for what, and how citizens will benefit because when you say citizens fund, somebody got to be responsible for managing it.
Yeah.
There
So
has to be
Ambula,
in which the funds will be, related to the Liberian people and how it's going to be used.
so Joker, my colleague Ambula will talk about the specifics, of what is written in the law as to how that 5% will be managed.
Right.
Yes,
I just
exactly.
wanted to, I just wanted to draw. I think that we're having feedback. We're having feedback. Somebody in the background. But I just wanted to draw an analogy. I mean, many of us who are on this call are very aware of sovereign wealth funds that other countries that are exploiting oil resources have. Okay. So those sovereign wealth funds are an additional boost, financial boost to the wealth creation strategy of those countries. So those countries have framework, and our own framework is developing the law that we are advocating. And Ambula will talk about the specific as to how we intend, the frameworks of that law intended Liberians to benefit from that. But in other countries, majority think about, I'll make reference to the Emiratis and the Saudis. They have a very good framework in terms of managing their resources. Or for example, the number one country that has a very good framework for managing their oil resources in Norway, for example, they have the largest sovereign wealth fund. So what that fund that is not a fund that comes out of government taxes. That is not that sovereign wealth fund do not come out of taxes. There's almost the same mechanism that we have in Liberia to the Section 36. And what that does is that you create a sort of what we call, and we got pension funds, sort of so think about NASCOR in Liberia. Think about NASCOR, that people are paying social security contribution so that when they leave the workforce tomorrow, the work they did during their active years can continue to sustain them. So that's just the sort of framework and motivation of what the 5% will do for Liberians if we keep it there, if we restore it. Ambula, please talk about the specifics of what is contained in the section.
Yeah, thank you, Matthew, for drawing such a good analogy. So to the history and to the point, one thing I want us to be clear when we're speaking about this Section 36 was not included in the law by few representatives and senators or consultants who worked on the law. As a matter of fact, I led the presentation of the draft petroleum law across the 15 counties. So I interacted with the people directly. Besides that, I returned to Monrovia and co-authored the consultation report, whose content informed the content of the law. So the 5% for a citizen fund and the benefit thereof was not determined or suggested by any lawmaker or consultant. It was suggested by the people across Liberia. When we went during the consultation, we presented a draft law that called for 10% for state and 5% for citizen. The interpretation then for citizen was Liberian businesses. That was the interpretation for citizens' participation. When we were presenting the law, it was Liberian business. The justification we had then was, when these Liberian businesses participate and get worthy, they will be able to employ other Liberians. They will be able to expand businesses. So it makes sense for Liberian businesses to take 5% equity in oil concessions. The people argued that it doesn't make sense to describe this law as 5% for citizens and you restrict the benefit to only people with businesses. They say millions of Liberians across the landscape of the country don't have the potential to open oil companies. So if you will maintain it as 5% for businesses, then don't call it citizen fund. Because if you call it citizen fund, then we must benefit. It was against that background we came back to the drawing board. And then at the end of the consultation, every county we went to, people said they needed the 5% for citizen fund under the modality where each citizen will have the opportunity to benefit, whether owning a business or not. That when the expert got involved and decided that the 5% will be set aside, it will be managed by an international trust company like the sovereign wealth modalities that Matthew talked about. The people did not know about sovereign wealth modality, but they knew that they wanted a mechanism by which individually or collectively in their communities they can benefit from oil wealth. So the experts now came together and said, now that our people are making this request, let's do research and determine what modalities we can use to meet their objective. That's how the Citizen Fund were established. That's how it was agreed that it will be managed by an international trust fund. That's how it was agreed that there will be a law. The legislature will pass a law 90 days after the separation of NUCA and the LPRA. The legislature will pass a law establishing the Citizen Fund. The Minister of Finance and the Central Bank Governor will select through a competitive process an international trust company that will manage that fund on behalf of the citizen. That explanation tells you the extent to which the people wanted what they wanted. And it was because the production sharing contract in the law has 10% for the state, it has taxes going to the state, it has royalties going to the state, it has profit oil going to the state, and it has taxes going to the state. So the people say if all the resources in the oil sector is just distributed between the state and the oil company, and historically we have identified that the state has not been effective and transparent and accountable and equitable in the management of resources. So if everything is just going to the state, then we're not assured of how we will benefit. So this 5% should not go to the businesses, rather it should go to the citizens. People drew two conclusions. There were two arguments that concluded this debate. And they draw an example on how Bernard Ure, Emmanuel Shaw, and other people took equity in Lone Star Cell. And they said these people took equity even though it is legal, but today the dividend, the profit of their equity in Lone Star Cell goes to they and their family. Ordinary Liberians don't benefit. So what assurance you giving us that will benefit when businesses take the 5% equity? Also in 2006, group of Liberians, Adolph Lawrence, Jonathan Mason, Dean Jala, and others took equity in Broadway Consolidated and Oil Company. When they sold their equity in 2013 to Pepperco, Pepperco then sold to ExxonMobil, they made 68 million. Public record. And ordinary Liberian did not benefit. That's how it was resolved that the 5% will go to Citizen Fund through the arrangement I just outlined, that it will be managed by an international trust company. The company will be selected by the Ministry of Finance and the Central Bank. There will be an act establishing the Citizen Fund to determine the specifics on how citizens will benefit. Unfortunately, now in 2019, just 2 months or 3 months to opening the bill round for oil companies to come and sign oil concession with the state, the government went back against the people's interest and secretly amended the law. They could not make this amendment public because they knew there would be public backlash. So they did it secretly and amended the law and went back to the original discussion and changed the from Citizen Fund to Liberian business.
All right, folks, it seems to be there's a glitch at Ambulai's end. You are watching Game TV.
Anthony, if you...
Yeah, go ahead.
May I interject? I just wanted to contrast the analogy I drew with NASCOP and this 5% setup. So the Social Security contribution that goes to NASCOP...
Are you there?
Yeah, I think
you broke through there. So
in your transmission. So you are muted still.
I don't know where I disconnected, but I was lending at the time that was the motivation for including the 5% for the citizens fund and not for businesses. But then the people agreed that still there is a need for Liberian businesses to participate. So if you see in the law in subsection, it tells you how the Petroleum Directorate and the government will set up the bidding process in a way that international oil companies that fund Liberian company and partner with them in the bid process will be given some form of special preference. That's how it was agreed for Liberian businesses to participate, but not for the state to protect equity work for businesses and not for its people.
Joker, you are
Joe,
muted also.
you are muted, Joe. Joe, you are muted. Unmute yourself, please.
Thank you very much. So I just wanted to say, Matthew and Ansoni, there's a takeaway from Abulai's conclusion, which is very significant. It means that Liberian organizations that are involved with oil exploration or oil management activities are not still excluded from the law.
No.
There is a special means by which they will be involved that does not in any way take away the 5% rights from the people. So the question is, if there is a provision that provides for the role of Liberian businesses in the management of our oil, why would the government even do an amendment? Why would the government even the only means by which Liberians are supposed to benefit from their own oil resource from the petroleum law? That is just mind-boggling. It is something inconceivable, and that even brings to bear sufficient reasons that we should have pressure on the government to restore the 5%. I just wanted to draw that analogy that businesses are protected by the law and the Liberian people are protected by the law. And this is within the context of Article 7 of the Constitution that I believe provides clarity on that. That every Liberian should be able to benefit, whether by as individuals or collectively or as an institution in the country, to benefit from these kind of resources. So I just wanted to underscore that takeaway from Abulai's conclusion that Liberian businesses are still protected by the law under different provision. And there is 36.7. Section 36.7 that talks about the creation of an act in the 2014 law that was amended that talk about the creation of an act on the implementation of the citizens funds. It talks about that. So I think that is part of the modality, the framework of remitting the 5% to the Liberian people, how they will benefit. There should be a special act that will be instituted by the action of the legislature, a statute that will provide for the way the Liberian people will benefit. So I think that there was a fair and balanced measure put in place by the law, but unfortunately that was amended by this group of people who have no interest in the Liberian people.
Yeah, Matthew, before you come in, let me bring the section of the 2014 or 2016, the original law. It reads here that which Joker was talking about, 36.7. All right, no later than 3 months from the transfer completion date.
3 years.
More than 3 years from the transfer completion date referred to in this section 78 of the Act, the Ministry of Finance and Development Planning shall, in consultation with the LRA, the authority, and other relevant ministry, prepare and submit to the President, and the President shall then submit to the legislature a draft bill for an act implementing the Citizen Participation Fund, which may be part of an act adopting a petroleum revenue management law. So if you go further, you talk about distribution here. This section 36 shall, in relation to such citizen participation, regulate the administration of the fund, specify the functions and duties of the trustee, and provide particulars on the uses and disbursement of money from the fund. And I'm glad the reason I'm reading this section is that in the original law, I want to call it, which is the 2014 passed into law 2016, it was specified how this 5% equity, which is the fund, supposed to be used. There's a structure put into place. There's to be a trust, an institution to manage it in consultation with the Ministry of Finance and the central bank. But if we come to the amendment, these specifics are not provided as to how the funds set aside for the citizens, which is the 5%, should be managed. It is left at the discretion of the government so they can decide in whatever way. And that is what I want you to speak to.
They have already decided. So the reason why they deleted those specific provisions is because the citizen fund no longer exists. So if you read chapter 36A of the amendment, the wording there now says 5% for Liberian business, for businesses owned by natural person of Liberian citizenship. So the 5% now is now for businesses. So there is no need to have a trustee in the law. There's no need to get an act establishing the citizen fund. There's no need for the Ministry of Finance and the central bank to select an international trust company, because the 5% equity for the citizen fund has been transferred to Liberian businesses. And that is our point of contention, and that is what we're trying to reverse.
And the ERISA, in addition to local contents, provisions in the Exploration and Production Act, each petroleum agreement shall contain a provision of at least 5% total equity stake for companies owned by natural persons of Liberian citizenship. So that's it. That's why you are saying that. So they don't have to give the specific now, because they have taken the 5% equity from Liberians to the businesses. Joe, you're shaking your head. Am I getting it wrong?
Look, this is inhumane. This is wicked. It's wickedness, to the highest core. These guys overnight deleted. They literally deleted. I don't even refer to that as an amendment. They just took the law in consultation with George Weah executive, the legislature. They just deleted from section 36.1 to section 36.7. They deleted everything about the citizenry, everything the law set aside for the citizenry, and just put one terrible paragraph in there that you just read, Anthony, about how they will manipulate, they will maneuver everything and just arrogate unto themselves the authority in this law to do anything they want to do with money that should be set aside for the Liberian people.
So,
I'm emotional about this. Is because we are supposed to ensure that this doesn't happen. It is not supposed to happen. This is wickedness. We have not even started exploration. Like Matthew and Ambulai said, it's futuristic. But the way we're going to do it in the future should not be business as usual. The way governance and management of resources has been. We have to ensure transparency, setting the stage for an effective and efficient oil management in our country, so we benefit. We'll be like other nations. We give good examples. Norway, the Saudis, the way they mine their oil resources, benefiting their countries, benefiting the citizens. We need to set the stage for that. Why are these guys destroying the opportunity that we have in the future to be able to
gentlemen, Joe, before you land, I want you to land with this, Jokai. I'm thinking, so we're talking about 5% here out of 100%, right? If you come to think about that percentage, for the people that own the country, you are giving them just 5%, right? And it is this very 5% that is so insignificant, and you're taking it away from your people. Come to think about it, gentlemen, and Amula, you have been doing some extensive work on this. Look at 5%. Is that even enough to think about taking that away from the citizens?
I think Matthew wants to come in.
Yeah, Matthew, go ahead.
Because this is the greedy man, the greedy hunter story. It's the greedy hunter story right here.
I just wanted to do a reflection on how our leaders have for ages recreated poverty in Liberia by the sort of actions that they're taking that has also now been taken by the WIA administration. Before I do that, I just wanted to draw a contrast between the analogy I made with NASCOM and this 5%. The money that goes to NASCOM is for people who in Liberia who are gainfully employed and are paying Social Security contribution. So for you to benefit from that NASCOM money, you must have worked and have contributed to it. This 5%, your eligibility to access funding from this 5% equity just by being a Liberian.
A citizen. Being a citizen.
Your eligibility is just to be a Liberian. It's just to be a Liberian citizen. So you see, if the government, if they succeed, and if this law remains, as we are advocating for it to be scrapped out of the book, if the law remains, now we are now recreating poverty. It's like we have a government that touts itself as a pro-poor administration, but you see they have taken the most pervasive anti-pro-poor, if I would say it that way, the most anti-poor action that they have taken. All right, because the most basic action that you can take to get a man who is in poverty out of poverty is to give him capital, the means to get out. Okay, historically, when you look back to the setup of Liberia, these are the sort of actions that got us to where we are today. When the founders came from the United States, they felt that those who they met on the ground were second class. As a matter of fact, those people were only meant to be their servants. So they largely concentrated opportunities to develop economic opportunities, educational opportunities, just among that clique, that cycle. The effect that we have today is the poverty that Liberia faces, and we continue to say Liberia is a poor country. Why? Because for ages, for generations, Liberians were historically denied, the vast majority of Liberians were historically denied the opportunity to develop themselves. Like I said, when I started initially, I said, why are we poor? Because we do not have capital, human or financial. They deprive us the opportunity to create or to build our human capital. Now, historically, that's the effect of poverty we have. The advent of oil exploration in Liberia presents an opportunity for us to build our financial capital, which becomes the panacea to develop our human capital. We are administration saying, no, we are fools. Liberians do not deserve to be wealthy. So we're going to take away from them the means through which they can create the financial capital that would have given them the opportunity to build a human capital. We're taking away that financial capital. So this is the entrenchment, the historical entrenchment of poverty in Liberia. So why the WIA administration advocates or that is as a pro-poor regime, whatever they're doing is like, you try to pour water through the funnel, or pour water through a perforated can, and you say that you're trying to fill a can. Obviously, it's not going to fill because when you put it in, the Liberian may say you dig-hole, you cover-hole. That's what they currently do. So if we do not restore this, we are condemning Liberia to a fate of poverty for the next 100 years. That's basically what is going to be happening in Liberia.
Thank you. Folks, we will be getting a call. Franklin, I continue to tell you, I don't know, there's a terrible feedback at your end. Is there a way, anytime I turn your mic on, that feedback resumes? And I want to bring you in here for you to make your point. So, folks, again, I want to remind you, you are watching Game TV. Game TV is the media platform of the Grassroots Alternative Movement. Welcome to the broadcast. We are talking about 5% equity for Liberians that was set aside by the 2014-2016 Petroleum Law of Liberia. That law has set aside. Franklin, you actually disturbing this discussion. I mean, I can't hold my patience anymore. That law has set aside 5% for Liberian citizens.
You're muting me or muting me? I don't know.
Because when you are unmuted, there's a terrible feedback. So
then mute me until you're trying to, invite me. That's what I'm saying.
that law has set aside 5% for Liberian citizens to benefit. But the new administration has amended the law overnight without citizen participation. And as Amulai had explained earlier, the 5% equity for Liberians were put into the law because citizens of Liberia have demanded or advocated for that. Initially, the 5% was intended for Liberian businesses. But when citizens look at all the immunity set aside in the very law to the government, they said, but then there's nothing here for us. And so when the citizen made the case, it was decided that, okay, then 5% will go to the Liberian citizen. It is this 5% now, our current administration is taking away from Liberians and giving to businesses.
Yes. And let me tell you, let me tell you, sorry for cutting you off, but let me just tell you the strategy they're using to keep the people quiet, which we will get into further as we move along this line, our timeline that we all agree on, on getting this thing done. They manage to misinform certain group of people who's supposed to be speaking on this issue. There are certain names that run to your mind. We don't want to be specific now, that you will expect at this time in the legislature or even outside of the legislature to pick up this issue on behalf of the people enjoying the coalition. Those people are not speaking for three fundamental reasons. One, few group of people have misled them to believing that, oh, the oil sector is complex and it requires experts to discuss and talk this thing. So everything regarding the oil sector that gets to the legislature, 95% of lawmakers will just push their hand off and leave it with 2 or 3 persons who call themselves experts, but in all fairness and in all measurement are not experts. And those people will work to align petroleum agreements, to align laws to their interests. One is Abachi. The 2006 agreement that I said few Liberians benefit from, Abachi was approaching it at that time, 2006. No Liberian knew about oil. When they went and they established Broadway, he was working to the Ministry of Lands and Mines.
Yes. They
did that undercover. Nobody knew, nobody talked. But when it came to 2013, when it was about to sell, and there was 68 million, then everybody blew alarm, but it was late. So now what they did now is Abachi and few others have made other lawmakers, they have made the petroleum sector that we will call in Liberia a bugu man. Only he and few other people should discuss it. The rest of the other people are not experts. That's one. Two, they made the people to be disinterested in the sector. Oh, Ellen government sold all the oil blocks. Oh, Ellen government looted Luka. There's even nothing in the sector to collapse the sector. So those comments have made the people disinterested in what they were once interested in. The people were interested in their equity. They demanded it during every consultation. The recordings are available. We will play those recordings when we get to the point where we're supposed to get. The people demanded 5% equity across the 15 counties. They were interested. So today, what they are doing now is they've made the people disinterested. So when you, as soon as you talk to anybody about 5%, hey, the people destroy the oil sector, Ellen broke down the car, we just can't waste our time. But they will know that the sector is not broken down. In fact, of all the 30 oil blocks Liberia has, the oil blocks with the most potential are the ones that are now set up to be set up for export for bidding process in few months from now. And that is what we call the Harper Basin. The Harper Basin is the basin with the most potential in the broad oil sector. So they made the people disinterested so that the people don't put pressure on them, so that the people don't ask them. Then in their catacomb, they organize the law so that they can be able to benefit in the future as other people did between 2005 and 2013. That's the reason why you see few people not talking. That's the reason why you see the people are not coming out the way you expect them to come out. Because people telling them that the oil sector has collapsed, Ellen destroyed it, the car broke down, and in fact, only experts need to talk about it. Those are their strategies that they deployed. But like people like you and I who know can take time and just read as simple as the two different versions is, we've come together and we are ready with the coalition to ensure we undo what they did.
Thank you. Let me bring Franklin in, and we will be hearing from Mr. Lawrence Toa, who is the student representative representing the Student Unification uh, Party. He's the coordinator of the coalition on the ground. He will be calling and we will bring him in. But let me bring in Mr. Wisaya. Franklin, I want you to talk about lawmakers who represent the people, the 5% from the people being taken away from their direct representatives. The 5% is not even enough. We can make that argument. But the lawmakers who should be advocating for the 5% in the law are the one taking the little 5% away. What does that say about our lawmakers in terms of representation for the people? Franklin?
Yes. Thank you. I think you've all spoken so well, and you know, we can overemphasize the need to call on our people to stand up 5% equity. I've always maintained that our problem in that country is with our legislators. You see, all of Liberia cannot occupy that very building they call it Capitol. So, in each of our electoral constituencies, we elected people to represent us. And those people are supposed to conduct themselves in a way and manner that projects the interest of the people. When you find our lawmakers surreptitiously, clandestinely changing laws to benefit a handful of people, then the ordinary people or the mass of our people, that is a good reason to lead a campaign that those of them vying for elections in the coming elections are rejected by the people. Look, for me, I don't mince my words, any kind of things. I've always said in 2023, as we go to the polls, lead a campaign, even if Game doesn't agree with me individually, I will lead a campaign as against anybody who one way or other participated in our war or in economic crime. The way we can convict them is by us refusing them being elected. That's one. Two, all those who are currently at the legislature that are refusing to affix their signatures to, for example, the War and Economic Crimes Court, will refuse them. This particular thing that they have done is a serious economic sabotage that adversely affects the interests of the people. It is a good reason to tell our people that most members, except a few of them, can come out to distance themselves from this, draconian arrangement or this devilish arrangement. We'll tell that these people don't represent your interest, and this is what they did to really keep you in poverty. It's a good reason why we must not elect these people. You see, we need to, as I said, besides the press conference, the press releases we need to take this thing beyond just having a discussion like this. Yes, I agree that what we're doing is good, but we need to go beyond this. And that's the only way we begin to send fear down the spines of these people and maybe see reason to act promptly. Let us start issuing some very strong statements, telling our people that these people don't mean well for you. Anywhere you see them vying for public office, refuse them, including the very president himself who said he had come to represent the interest of the people, matter of the people. These people don't mean well because everything they condemned yesterday, they are perfecting under this administration. So the more I want to have this kind of discussion, at a point in time I saw Joker, getting emotional. This is a very serious and grave affront, and offense to the people. These people are accountable to us. We are their employers. They must not, do things that will like, a wedge in our hearts like they've done. I mean, for me, I would just say, look, let us just have this discussion, but I want us to start issuing very strong statements back home using the media platforms, most of which have been bought already, that are and dancing to the whims and caprices of this government.
Franklin, thank you. Thank you. Gentlemen, what is the next step? Now that this is clearly an action on the part of the government and our legislators of just denying the people their just right. Also, you talk about the manner in which the amendment was done overnight, no involvement of civil society, citizens who had demanded for this. What is the next step? What can the Liberian people do? What can we do as citizens to make sure that this, which clearly is not in best interest of the people, can be stopped for the people to be able to benefit for that little 5% that were initially set aside in the law?
Yeah, Matthew is taking care of the next step. He's leading most of the efforts in that direction, and I'm supporting him. So it'll be good for him to speak to the next steps.
All right, Matthew, next step.
Yeah, so we have engaged members of the legislature. We have sent. I think it's been 3 weeks now since we wrote a letter to them demanding that they repeal the 2019 George Weah's amendment to that law and restate the 2016 provision. So it's been 3 weeks, and so we're hoping that from Monday we're going to issue a follow-up letter to them, because after it's been 3 weeks we haven't heard from them. In this public manner, we are positive that the lawmakers will correct the injustice they have committed against the Liberian people, the economic sabotage, if I will use Mr. Wisse's word, that they have committed against the people of Liberia. We believe that they would do that. We are sending a letter to the president of Liberia, also asking him to prevail on the lawmakers to repeal that 2019 George Weah's amendment. It is our hope that they will act in good faith and restore to Liberians justly what belongs to Liberians. There are options available to us if they do not act, and we will take advantage of all available legal means to ensure that what belongs to us is returned to us. I think that's what we can say for now.
Yes, and in addendum to what Matthew said, prior in preparation to going to the legislature and to the president and to where we eventually end up, we did well in organizing a coalition of different organizations around this idea, and that's why we are, seriously pleased to have GIM, part of us with their grassroots presence across Liberia. So we'll be able to work together, collaborate, and mobilize the people's, action and conscience around this issue, while we are pursuing the path of, dialogue and pursuing other legal options like Matthew talked about. Will also rally the people conscience around the struggle for their rights, and that's where grassroots alternative movement and other coalitions we are forming, other people who are expressing interest in joining the coalition, will be very important and contributory to that process.
Okay, Anthony, let me just come in quickly to add that there should be very assured of GAME's contribution towards this effort. As a matter of fact, GAME is going to affix her signature to the 2 letters that are going out to the legislature and to the executive, to Mr. Weah. But I want to assure you that Mr. Weah and the legislature will not respond. We just had a recent experience with them with respect to the fiasco they had referring to as game issue expert advice publicly and officially wrote the legislature asking them to generate a resolution postponing the referendum based on the reasons, expert reasons that we gave that it was going to be a failure. Nobody listening. In the wake of the Supreme Court's ruling, we also advised the Elections Commission not to proceed with the referendum because it was going to fail and it was going to be waste of public resources and it was not in good faith. They were arrogant, just as the legislature, but there's no better choice of word, but that they were very arrogant. We feel that their action was irresponsible because they did not even respond to us as Liberians, group of Liberians under the umbrella of game. They didn't respond up to now. They have not responded. They will not respond to us as a coalition. My advice now is we should begin to prepare for the legal battle.
We believe. Sorry, if I will interrupt, Mr. Jokai. We believe that the executive headed by George Weah and the legislature will act in good faith to correct the injustice that they have committed against the people of Liberia. We strongly believe that they will act, and we may not need to go further to take action. We hope that they will consider the seriousness of this matter, the gravity of the offense that they have committed against the people of Liberia. The effect of what they're trying to do is to condemn Liberia for the next generation to poverty. We believe that they will act. We hope that they will act. But even if they didn't act, they should know that the power to maintain or remove those who are on Capitol Hill and at the Executive Mansion lies within the people of Liberia. It is the cause of the people of Liberia we are advocating, and we believe no public official can hold on to their position if the Liberian people are displeased. Because of that, we believe they will act.
I do not want to doubt you, my colleague Matthew. I don't want to doubt that because I know that change is possible. Men's minds changes at any moment. I know it's possible that they will respond to us, and it's not only possible, it's a 50-50 chance that they won't respond at all because we have experiences with the group of people we're talking about. But as a coalition going forward, I want us to be better prepared. While it is true that we are anticipating favorable and timely response or responses from them, we should equally be prepared for a legal battle because this is the best interest of the Liberian people and we will not take no for an answer. That is why it is quite appropriate that we prepare legally while we are anticipating responses from them. And game would seriously advise that we take that into consideration based on our recent experiences with the legislature and the executive in the just ended December elections, special senatorial election and referendum. Having said that, game is prepared for this process. We will be putting other members of the coalition on the ground in contact with game leadership structure on the ground. As a matter of fact, Dr. Emmanuel K. Ure, who has game in Liberia, is going to be on his way to Liberia in a few days from now. While in Liberia, he will also seek to have audience with coalition members and probably have a meeting with them at our office that is to open shortly in Monrovia. So that will be a boost to our advocacy and to let the government know that we are serious about it. This, we're not taking it lightly. We have to ensure the restoration of the 5% equity. It's a must. There's no answer here. So we are together in this process. Let's work together.
Let me say something to you. When they amended the law in 2019, we issued a statement. We knew the law was in the legislature to be amended. We made contact with people who we thought were in the interest of Liberians. They denied to me privately, and since our private conversation, we keep it like that for now, that there is no law to amend the petroleum to amend the petroleum law 2014. There is no intention. And then we got another intel that was introduced on the floor, and then we made representation to people who we knew. And then they told us, that, oh yeah, we saw it today, but then, it's in committee room. But a few days after, we saw the president issue press statement that it has been signed. And we knew the motive, so we came up with the statement. Everybody thought in 2019 or early 2020, when we started this conversation, it was about the news. It was about somebody wants to be heard or somebody wants to be seen. And it will die in 7 days, as it is always predicted in Liberia, that somebody was maybe less busy in their description and that this thing will just die in 7 days. I'm saying this to say and to reassure you and the rest of the other people who probably listening to me and will listen to me, that this thing was not initiated to stop on the radio. The rights of Liberians will be restored. I was envisaged in the 2014 law. Regarding legal representation, we can assure you, as we did when we first met, and everybody listening to us, that we are ready and we are prepared. We are strategically proceeding because we don't have the resources and the time to be all out about since 2019 when the law was amended. So we know when to strike, we know when to negotiate, we know when to talk, and we know when to go to court, and we know when to initiate political action, mass political action of the people. We have timelines for that. So we're going to show you everything is in place. Timeline will dictate our next action, and the rights of the Liberian people will be restored. Just an assurance.
So very much, folks. We will get a concluding statement from all of us yet. Sorry that Lawrence is yet to call. He's in traffic trying to get to a safe place. Chances are that we may have another engagement on this particular effort because it's an ongoing effort. We're just getting started. And so at this time, we will take a concluding statement. Franklin, 1 minute each.
Yeah. Again, I will say thank you for your contributions, and I agree with Matthew. Let us be optimistic that they will act, because their failure to act will mean a lot. Let us believe they will act. So I agree with him that they will act. But one of the ways that they will act in the affirmative is to begin to elevate this debate. We shouldn't just relax because we've written the legislature and they're going to, give their consent to this. Let us begin to elevate this advocacy, conscientize our people, home and abroad, and a picture of the harm that this to the Liberian people. But that, with the public outcry, oh my man, the CDC government is like the turtle. You got to put fire on the back, before they ask. So thank you very much for this discussion, and let us keep working together and make sure we represent the interests of the Liberian people.
Okay, if I will close, I want to set a caveat or a caution to the Petroleum Regulatory Authority to say that the law which they're using as a basis to start to hold bid rounds, that law contravenes the Constitution of Liberia. So it will be in their interest not to proceed from the 30th of April, as they plan to do, to start to qualify people to bid for the Harper Basin. I will repeat that. The law that they're using as a basis to hold bid round for the Harper Basin as of April 30 is against the Constitution. It contravenes Article 7 of the Constitution. So it would be in the interest of saving their resources and time not to proceed on the basis of that law. That's a caution to them. And for companies, the quote-unquote companies who are interested or who will be quote-unquote qualified, it is also a caveat to them. They are treading on slippery grounds. They should not fall for the LPRA shenanigans, because the law that they want to use as a basis for the bid round starting April 30th cannot withstand a constitutional test. So we urge them to disengage and follow us logically to a logical conclusion of the engagement that we're having with the lawmakers, so that the 2016 law can be restated. It is the 2016 law that should serve as a governing law for the petroleum sector, and not the 2019 amendment, in particular Section 36. So we encourage all Liberian companies who have been pre-qualified to say, do not proceed to engage with the LPRA on the basis of the 2019 amendment, because that would be dangerous. That would be slippery for your investment. We cannot assure you that any company that invests in the oil sector pursuant to Section 36 will reap will reap any dividend of what they're trying to sow in the sector on the basis of that law. So this is just a cautionary note to sound to LPRA. Please do not proceed, because this law is questionable, and we are pursuing this to a logical conclusion. Thank you.
We have seen many reports questioning the independence of the judiciary, especially the Supreme Court. It is not in our purview at this moment to question their independence. We, however, take note of those reports, but we trust the court. If the legislature and the president will not act in the interest of their people, we will move to the court. And we will pray the court to interpret the Constitution on the participation of Liberians. It will be left at that point with President Weah to decide between the interests of 4 to 5 million people and the interests of the 7 businesses he has elected. Because at the Supreme Court, the simple question will be 5% equity to 4.5 million Liberians versus 5% equity to 7 businesses. Which one assure the maximum participation and benefit for the people? And at that point, while we are the Supreme Court, Judge Weah will have the option to allow the Supreme Court dispense justice either for the majority of the people or for the 7 businesses. If we cannot restore the people's right through the court to those businesses who are taking from the people, we will introduce them to the people. We will introduce those businesses to the people. Who are those behind those businesses? Their family members, their children. We will introduce them to the masses of our people, so our people know them and know who took from them their rights, and they can decide what to do with them. But they will be introduced, they will be profiled to our people. Thank you.
Well, let me just say in closing that we need to have a point of reflection here a little bit. We are dealing with a group of people who lack integrity, and I'm not going to mince my words. We can reflect that when the news about the amendment broke, they were contacted by different stakeholders. And the very people who amended the law deny that that existed. When it was introduced on the floor, they were contacted again. The very people said, yes, we saw it, we heard about it, but committee is discussing it. When committee discussed it and they came back on the floor to vote, They were contacted and they said, well, they were not going to approve it. And they approved it to the contrary. When they were contacted, many of them refused to respond because it undermined what little measure of integrity or morality, if any, they had. These are the same people who took away the 5% overnight in a bogus arrangement. The president of the country affixed his signature to something that took away an opportunity to give financial capital to an already impoverished nation. Took away their 5% equity right for any oil agreement that is supposed to be signed when we are exploring, when we are mining oil in our country. These are the same people, along with the president, that we are talking about will respond. These are the same people who don't have any history of responding to a group of Liberians or listening to their own citizens when they question them, when they question their governance model. These are the people we know. These are the people who, when Liberians demonstrated en masse and petitioned them, they trashed the petition about things that are done against them. This is not done in abstention or in isolation. This is done in the glare of the public. These are people whom, if they had consciences, we wouldn't be sitting here talking about reversal of a law that they amended, that they had no right to amend. These are people who are like beasts without hearts. These are people who lack conscience by any measure. These are the people we're talking about. These are the people that game wrote and follow up with individuals we think have moral rectitude among them, not to proceed with the referendum. Some of them assure us, and they proceeded. These are the people we are talking about. This is the very same legislature we are talking about. Are these the same people that are going to respond to us to reverse the 5% equity? I want to see this so that I can change my tune, I can change my language, I can change my message. I want to see it happen. I want it to surprise me. My conclusion here is a challenge to the legislature and challenge to President Weah that they should go ahead and act so that they can prove me wrong, that they have the moral conscience in question, that they have the ethics, that they are the leaders of the people who were elected. They should convince me. This is the challenge I'm putting up there. And what I'm saying is that this is the matter of a violation of the rights of the people in keeping with Article 7 of the Constitution of Liberia. And the way to fix it is to fix it legally. We will advocate, like Franklin said, like Matthew said, we will go out, we will be strategic, we will mobilize the Liberian people. But equally so, we will not forget to prepare for a legal battle, because I know that it is about the reversal of the law. This is law here. This is the matter of law here. And it takes the law, it takes legal approach to also fix it. So we will proceed with that approach. And I'm sure the coalition is prepared for that. We will proceed with that legal approach to address this issue. All of the reports about the misgivings of the judicial system in our country, we know that there are still some good people in Liberia with the interests of the people in their minds. And this will work. This is how I want to close on this, that the coalition is coming, that we will pursue every means available to us by way of advocacy, by way of the law. We will proceed with everything to ensure that the 5% equity right in the 2014 Act passed in 2016 is restored. That is what we are going to do. And I want to say thank you to Ambulai, Matthew, and Franklin for the discussion. Asuni, thank you for the moderation. We look forward to more of this in different form, and we look forward to our people coming together on the ground to begin to have some physical approaches by action, consistent with our laws. We will make sure that we proceed with this effectively and efficiently. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Antonio, you're muted.
Thank you, Mr. Josiah Joka. Joka is the Executive Chairman of the Grassroots Alternative Movement. This is GIM TV, which happen to be the media platform of this institution, the Grassroots Alternative Movement, that is part of a coalition advocating for the 5% petroleum equity that was set aside by the petroleum law of Liberia for Liberians being taken away by our current administration and our current legislators. They're taking money from the Liberian people and they're giving it to 7 businesses in Liberia. Businesses, from our research, we know these government officials and legislators have connection. This speaks to corruption in cold suit. That is unacceptable. The Grassroots Alternative Movement has joined ranks with other institutions to make it clear to the Liberian people that it is unfair, it is unacceptable, that what belongs to the people can be taken from them by the people they have elected to serve their best interest. We are hoping that the Liberian government and this legislator will do right by the Liberian people to give back to them what they have fought for and entitled to, and not give it to their friends in the name of providing 5% equity for Liberian. And by the matter of fact, there are provisions in the law that give some other rights to Liberian businesses. So why take away the very 5% for the Liberian people? Again, we are hoping that these lawmakers and our government and the president will be able to give what belongs to the people back to them, because they are servant of the people, and that is the right thing to do. Again, thank you for watching GIM TV.
10 seconds. So if we're referring to Liberian businesses, we just referring to Liberian-owned oil companies. So then the public can judge how many Liberian-owned oil companies we do have in Liberia right now.
Thank you. That is a very important. So Liberian oil companies, and there are 7 of them. So they're taking the 5% from all Liberians to these 7 Liberian petroleum businesses. Again, this is how we do it here at GIM TV. We are about the issues and the issues on it. And if you like what we do here and you want to be part of this institution, there's a website right there on the screen, www.gimliberia.org. Go there and sign up. We will be able to reach out to you. We will let you know when we are here. Yeah, we are here every Saturday. Joe, go ahead. Anything you want to add?
Do we have comments today? 2 minutes just for comments?
Oh, yes, Joe, thank you for bringing that to my attention. Let me do that quickly. Let's hear from Mr. Sampson here. Greetings, great guys, he wrote. And Hamilton writes, are there any embodiment funds for unborn children or people?
That's what the 5% is for. That's exactly what the 5% will be doing.
Yeah, that's what the 5% is for. And then we have Passaway the Second. Thanks, Amen, for creating this platform. We appreciate your comments. Let's hear from Passaway again. Thanks to the same comment here. All right. This is Mr. Beko. I don't know if the Mr. So you will not get any money again. That money you people were getting and not working close now. Why you didn't ask Ellen or somebody taking a policy posture here? We are talking about something for the Liberian people. Having Logan, George Weah's developmental initiatives are widely noticed by Liberians in the diaspora and Liberia. Joe, it was good you brought that to my attention. So again, folks, this is how we'll draw down the curtains here at GIM TV. We will let you know when we are coming back on, but we are here every Saturday at 11 a.m. Eastern Time. Thank you for watching. We'll catch you next time. Gentlemen, thank you and bye-bye.